welcome in. Why are we doing this in this situation? Why is things happening in this regard? I think you bring a lot of good things out for people to try to understand. And I think it's very important that the fans who are watching this tonight that get a chance to see this have an understanding of where we are as a football.
Are even closer and still managing to convert. And I can tell you from playing what is now called Star, that is one of the most frustrating and heartbreaking things is to have a team in a 3rd and long, they convert anyways, and then you can see the wheels start moving, that momentum start building up. And that's another great thing about this Georgia team is, look, if you let them convert that first down, they have so many ways of attacking you. And even if they have a bad day at the office like they had in certain aspects, like realize, guys, Florida's been a playoff caliber roster this year. It's been a coaching Florida for saying is, oh, that guy was wide open. Oh, that timing was off just a little bit. Oh, that delayed blitz. I know you corrected me on this. I was like, maybe Gunner could have thrown it away. And then on the replay, I saw exactly what it was. Like, Gunner, you got to recognize that that's coming. They brought more men than you can block.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest thing positively about this team, not only its resilience, is it's great to be resilient. It's even better if that is integrated into your team week in and week out.
Yes. I'm heavily in favor of what you're saying from a standpoint of wanting to build that consistent value that you want to see in your team from a running to pass consistency ratio. Coach Bobo, even in the midst of this game, it had sort of the vibes. You and I were talking in group chat. I felt like it was almost like there was some Auburn vibes in that. And what happened in the second half to me that was a little bit different than the Florida game, because Florida defensively was I think they're a very strong unit. Watching them pregame and breaking their film down, I really thought they would bring some things to us that would cause a lot of problems. And for the most part, they did that. And it was so it wasn't necessarily consistent, but when it happened, it always seemed to be at inopportune times when we needed to convert, when we needed that completion, when we had an opportunity for a play and they bring more than we can block and we don't see that 7th man coming right up through A gap. Those things kind of came into play. My positive values that I continue to see from these guys is that when things are going kind of in a negative direction, we don't flinch. I don't see us really seeing the fact of we're beat. Even when we were down and they were gaining momentum and they were coming back and they were beginning to drive the field and we were beginning to say, listen, they're up. We need to just hold them to a field goal right here, not a touchdown. And then, of course, some things happen for the best. But that's what makes this team to me so different. In the Auburn game in the second half, when our defense stood up and started playing hella defense, our offense also consistently started executing. We were converting all 3rd downs, converting 4th downs. We were needing the big plays when they happened, and we saw better execution rate more than likely if you probably look at the stats efficiently. But then also, too, in this game, we executed kind of at the beginning. We had that long drive right out of the second half there in the 3rd quarter, and then we hit a dip. And that's the reason why I brought this stat up here, because realistically, through the latter part of the 3rd quarter, going into the 4th quarter, that's where you see that huge, trough right there where it was really looking down. And it came down to the 4th down play where we made a huge stop on the 4th down play. And then, of course, the incomplete pass that was, had to be reviewed as well. I mean, even with all the things that we talked about, and I know we're going to talk about the clap here a little bit later, it seems so funny that we've had more ambiguity about a clapping situation in 2 big ball games like this, the Auburn game and now this game, than we have in actual regular play. Is that, we have those things happen, and for the better part of the game, we really felt like we were getting sort of submarine by the refs. And, I've always been someone to not blame the refs for anything. There's bad calls on both sides of the ball, but when it seems like it's going one way and it seems to be happening at those inopportune times, it tends to put us into this mindset that we just can't win. If you're playing behind that, you just can't win. But still overcoming all of that, when we needed a play to be called in our direction, the 4th down play that got reviewed, the incomplete pass that we thought that they had completed came out to be the incomplete pass. Those were the things that gave us the turnaround and the momentum to take it and go back the other way. And as you can see there at the end, we definitely came out of that trough there to win the ball game. So just your thoughts on just some different things that just kind of put the inconsistencies or the mental fatigue out there for the basic fan watching the game.
Yeah, like you said, it's when you have these great opportunities to really continue the success you've seen early, Georgia seems to really struggle outside the middle 8. So the middle 8 essentially make it really easy is the middle of the game. And that's really where I felt like Georgia really controlled things in terms of, man, they're that one step away, that one play away, but they're moving the ball, winning the game of field position, stopping Florida repeatedly. Where things got really, really iffy for me is obviously Florida gets that long drive that ends up being in a turnover on downs, and Georgia makes a heck of a play. And where they made it from, too, that shouldn't be undervalued. The thing that really gets me with the refs is I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but earnestly I believe this just as a human factor. So the SEC obviously wants to signal itself as a premier program, right? They had that Auburn controversy to the point where a very seasoned head judge has to be suspended.
Mm-hmm.
And earnestly, I believe that these umpires and judges and refs came out and they said, look, we're really, really going to be hard on this, this, and this, and this. Because my question to any referee or any rule maker is, at what point do you call a clap exaggerated? Because it's a neutral field. I get it. That's
Yep.
still roughly 50% of Florida fans. They're cheering. Look, sound can be really, really hard to go off of, that simple snap count. Why is it when his hands go a certain distance away that we're all of a sudden saying, oh, this is an exaggerated clap? You've now just taken that entirely out of the game, which to me, the offense already has enough rules built around it.
Yes.
The targeting calling KJ Bolden, we talked about that. What is he supposed to do short of giving up his body? Because if an offensive player running forward after completion is considered defenseless, well, every running back's defenseless.
Yes.
Right after the handoff.
Yes.
And so, again, it's safer for KJ to lead with the crown to the chest plate than any other thing there, because if he goes at the feet, look, Florida had an outstanding day of yards after contact from both a receiver standpoint, running back standpoint. They absolutely played a physical game. So you're now handicapping a defense even more. And so that's my concern with these officials and refs. Again, I don't think someone made a call. I think the SEC has really stepped in the doo-doo, so to speak, against Auburn, realized how bad it was, because I want to say 7 to 8 times the ball was snapped in the Auburn game, both for Auburn and Georgia. They stopped the play to review it. And some of those reviews were some of the most egregious I've ever seen.
Agreed.
The catch with Florida, look, obviously I don't think it was a catch. I think when your hands are having to be laid down flat on the ground and the ball is clearly being assisted, sliding in, there's no way to confirm, look, were your hands really, really underneath it enough to build that distance if I can't see any gap between that ball.
Exactly.
And look, Florida, I'm glad that they let the physical game continue. There's a lot of times I saw Georgia players' helmets turn, and I'm thinking, man, did he, finger whip that face mask? Did he do this? And obviously, holding lines of scrimmage calls, I'm pretty much going to just say, look, you're going to miss a lot. You're going to see a lot. There was a couple times Georgia finally broke through to get the DJ, and our guy's jersey is on the other side of the line of scrimmage. And so that's the way they called the game today. I'm not obviously excited about it, but I earnestly believe they were thinking, that was a bad look for Auburn. We're really going to be tough on this side. And look, like you said, perfect way to explain it just like you did. They don't flinch. I, as a fan, obviously am riding the roller coaster and overreacting because I see the potential of the team not being realized. I see us, coming out of the bye week, not nearly as good as we have been in years past. But once my emotions die down, I'm able to look back and say, look, beating Florida 5 times is a big deal, especially with an interim head coach. And something I wanted to lead into, college football has trends that are clear as day. Interim head coaches that are legitimate coaches, and I believe this guy's an Urban Meyer disciple. And to me, he coached a heck of a game. Teams go to extremes. Cadillac Williams for Auburn's a good example. Auburn played like a brand new team and played everyone tough. You got to throw the wins and losses out, especially when a team has talent like Florida. And that was my concern going into this is, look, Florida is a playoff caliber defense. Their offense obviously is not. I think there were a few terrible series called against Miami from continuing to run on Miami, who's got a really good defensive front. On top of that, not flinching is the injury question. So Hall, I'm going to knock on wood for him. Poor guy has not been able to play a full season in years. He finally gets in. He's doing relatively well. Obviously, you want him to do better based on his ranking. You know how his fans are. But it's his first year playing. So he goes. Then you have KJ at a safety position that I think is already really, really struggling. That to me is, if I was going to gripe about anything, I think Georgia's safety play has been atrocious to the standard of Georgia.
Yep.
But I mean, I fully agree with you on, that dip never really affecting Georgia, and I think that trickles down. Look, I think Miami fans. I'm not trying to disparage Carson Beck or anything. I'm not even going to go to a certain direction. They're starting to notice. Look, those faces you make, the things you say, the huffing and puffing under your breath. It's more of a kudos to Gunner. He doesn't do that. He gets upset with himself, and then it's on to the next one.
You never see him ever change his emotion in the game, honestly. Definitely with you there. I know that I think that's Caleb 725. We definitely didn't like the KJ call at all. I find it being, I was a defensive minded head, as when I went into coaching, DC was definitely the first thing that I wanted to take on, because I love defense. I love to pound and get after people on defense and make sure I punish you when I hit you. And I feel like they've put this huge governor on defenses now, because if you lower your hat in a certain way, whoever made the rule for targeting obviously never played the game. Now, I get it. You're trying to protect both the offensive player and the defensive player, but we have blatantly seen targeting calls that were put in there for a very reason, where a kid launches his body to throw his helmet like a torpedo into the other kid. That is something that all day long, twice on Sunday, I'm going to agree with as a targeting call. But when you're trying to come up, as you said, Scott, and you're basically saying as a defender, I've got to sacrifice my body and just let him go, or let his forward motion go, and I can't make contact with him because I'm trying to basically react within 1 millisecond of a time to get my hat into a different area and strike him in a different area than where contact typically makes. And that to me is something that is impossible in that length of time, in that specific read react time, for defenders to do. 9 times out of 10, KJ had no intent to target that kid. He's trying to make a freaking tackle. Now, KJ, get your head up. Face mask up, put it in the V of his neck to the best of your ability, or at least hit shoulder pad and wrap your arms. Kids coming in nowadays not bringing their arms with their hat, that drives me nuts. Also, too, his head was down, which is not good either. That compresses the C spine. You don't want to see a kid get injured. But still, nonetheless, I find that 9 times out of 10, we're debating so much ambiguity in a read-react concept that takes milliseconds to develop. And honestly, there's not a way that someone who made that rule could say, you know what, I think that it's important that we not only give them a personal foul for 15 yards, but let's kick them out of the ball game because of the malicious intent that this kid is trying to put on this defenseless player in that case scenario. The way I look at it, I don't understand the punt, where the punt catch interference, where he hit Zachariah Branch. It wasn't even close to being bang, bang play. He had the ball in his hand for a solid 1-2 count, and the kid hits him low. He could have hurt him. He could have hurt the knee, the ankle, anything on that. There's nothing. It's a 5-yard penalty basically for kick catch interference, and that kid gets to stay in the game. To me, that's more dumbassery than what KJ's having to do in that situation for the targeting call. So I know we could sit here all night long and argue that, and I do agree with you, Scott. I tend to kind of put everything at a push level when it comes to the line of scrimmage, unless it's massively blatant. But I think because we felt like a lot of things were leaning in Florida's direction, with them having pretty much the it seemed, for the majority of the first half, with time of possession, us not seemingly coming out very well after the first series on offense. And we just saw, like I said, those inconsistencies. So as a fan, you start kind of clutching pearls as the game moves on. And I think that was the reason there was a lot of fans feeling this, like it could slip away at any given time. What I was going to ask you too, when we were sitting here talking about that a while ago, is how important was it for Noah Thomas to come back after a play that he really should have called on the dig route that he misses, and they get the interception off of it, giving Gunner another turnover for the year? How big was it for him to come back and, make the catch off the Fox route, and to see Coach Smart, really pump him up on the sideline? Hard to believe that it took this long for us to see a Noah Thomas touchdown this year in Kobe Young's absence. How big was that for Noah Thomas tonight?
Oh, massive. Because if you don't make that kind of play, you sit on it and it stews, and it can really affect the next game performance. And look, any player that Coach Smart or Georgia has decided to come out of the portal, you know that they have a true football player sense in them and that they see a lot that they like on the film because film don't lie.
Nope. It don't.
100% agree that that washes away a lot of that of it goes from, okay, I just cost my team to yes, I did that in that one play, but I also gave my team 6 points, 7 points ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
And Noah's been doing a lot of good stuff. I like the physicality across the board from the receivers. I think he fits that mold really, really well. And just like Coach Smart did with Talon Taylor, I hate losing to Bama because we do it way too often.
Mm-hmm.
That drop, Kirby Smart did such an excellent job of coming up to him like, look, I know you catch that ball 99 times out of 100. I'm
Yeah.
sure similar things were said to Noah. But like you said, what really makes it important is when they make a successful play, that's where you really cement in being a leader of men in terms of, what's happening on the field. You say, look, I know this is what you're capable of. And I know that this is more to come from you. And it really builds that confidence, especially in a game that was just such a war. And going back to the ref thing, I think my major concern with the way the refs called the game is a real lack of clarity because the whole issue with targeting, I fully agree with you. Some bureaucrat somewhere sitting in the SEC home office just had a good idea with terrible, terrible execution. Okay, we want to protect players. I know spearing used to be the call because that's how old I am. It was spearing and
Right.
launching and all that
Right.
stuff. And so they used good clips to explain the targeting rule at the time. Now it's become, look, we are willing to risk injury from the defender to ensure that this doesn't happen. And on
Mm-hmm.
top of that, the fact that we don't have a tier system in terms of targeting is
Yes.
mind-boggling to me.
Agreed.
Incidental versus malicious.
Yep.
Clear as day when a player's, it's kind of one of those things of, okay, bullet point here to give me the basis to make the call, but also you have eyes. If you
Yeah.
truly understand football as referees should to, at a high degree, especially with this high level of football, you should be able to distinguish, okay, KJ, that's a 5-yard penalty. We're not going to eject you. Or keep it at 15, just say, hey, no ejection. Or the fact that there's no variation when I saw Smoke Monday a couple years ago, absolutely laying people out with the full intent of cracking their helmet open, not only by leaving his feet, but driving them in a certain way. And also the idea that any player running upfield for yards after catch or yards after contact is somehow defenseless is unreal to me.
I agree. I agree completely. I sit there and think to myself as we go through the all the ambiguity of the refs. I thought after what happened with the Auburn game and them suspending that head ref, I really thought they opened a Pandora's box because honestly, now it's like the kid that gets a trophy. No matter what they do at the end of the season, whether they go 0-15 or 15-0, it's the same principle now. If you can get enough whining, that squeaky wheel gets the oil, and you're going to start seeing more of these guys get this, this slap on the hand, or in this case scenario, a little bit more significant of a slap on the hand. I don't understand if there's so much to this. Why don't they have some kind of union for the actual refereeing system for the SEC, for the Big Ten, for basically college football in general, and pay these guys money as a system for them to come in and do this so that they can be held accountable, so they have the ability to step up after a ball game and be able to say this and this is what we come to agreement on. There needs to be more transparency to me from the reffing system, especially in the bigger programs that are, and I get it, there's a lot of good athletes going on, but it still comes down to, if I've got a quality 5-star athlete out there, I still want him to pull correctly and kick out the end, and I want to be able to run my running back through the mesh point, hand the football off, and be able to hit a hole and be able to have the vision to see it. It's still freaking football. The refs should be able to see that as well. You just should be seen better because you've got elite athletes doing very good things at very specific high rates of speed. And it just seems to me all of a sudden you'll get this inconsistency there that really it almost changes the trend value of the game. And I think that's why it frustrates us as fans in the process. Now, if you look at the total, I was going to go to the team stats here. It's been sitting here between us now for a while. For the time being, Florida had a really big time of possession issue on us. But if you look down the stat lines there, 361 total yards of offense, the one turnover that we talked about from Noah Thomas, 21 first downs. But, believe it or not, penalties, 7 for 65 yards. And one of those is obviously the targeting call and the 5-yard. I know what I was going to say. Before I go on down this list, I want to remind you, if also too, if that was the clapping thing from Gunnar Stockton, if that was considered a false start on the offense for the impeding clap, why didn't they blow the ball dead? That's another thing that I was thinking about as well in that situation. If that was called to that nuance of, we know that that was a clap, false start on the quarterback, there should have been a flag thrown. They let the play run out, just like if the defense had jumped across, which is what we thought. They snapped the football for you got a free play and we don't complete it, but we're thinking that's what we've got. If that's the case, if you think it's the false start on the offense, then why wasn't that play blown dead? That's where the inconsistency comes from me as well in that situation. But
And that's where I'm with you, Coach. Real quick, is I walked away from the TV thinking, okay, free play wasn't caught, reset and kind of recalibrate. Do you want to go for the field goal or do you just want to push it over? Because I do think Georgia kind of had boomer bust, not really boomer bust, I shouldn't say. Florida defended the run really well, but they risked a lot to do it. A lot of safety help. I mean, there was one play I saw safety's read step was 4 steps towards the line of scrimmage, which I haven't seen in a long time. I mean, they really were aggressive from that position. But that's what really frustrates me is the sequencing doesn't make any sense. Going back to the Auburn thing, the ball is snapped, a second comes off the actual game clock, and you blow the play dead for review. That's done and away with. You lost your opportunity to do that. And just like that, I earnestly believe a side judge or whoever initially threw the flag looked at it and thought, okay, free play, defense, all on them. Then they started talking. Head judge or an umpire or a back judge, whoever, started saying, no, this was exaggerating this because they were trying to do this. And to me, that's such a nonsense penalty to begin with. That's part of the game, is instilling discipline in defense, not to give up those free plays. And on the penalty total count you have up there, 7 for 65, it's more of when the penalties happen.
yeah,
And it would push Georgia out of like an opportunity where you would then see like a 3rd and 22.
yeah,
And again, defense plays a role in this, but then you would see a really successful play from Georgia where it'd be like, okay, now it's 4th and 5, but it doesn't matter because we got absolutely hooeyed on that.
yeah.
Just again, hate to keep berating on it, but
No,
just a
it's
bad
fine.
day from the officials overall. Like that catch had me worried a little bit, but when I saw the video, I was like, you got to review it. It's a critical down. I get it.
Yeah,
But there's no way that's considered a catch.
yeah.
And I just thought, look, I don't believe in conspiracies, but that one would have made me put a tinfoil hat on of saying, okay, they really want this game to be close.
Yeah, I was sitting there thinking to myself, I might need to put a tinfoil hat on myself and put it over the top when that happened, because I really felt the way the game was going that somehow, some way, they were going to come away with saying that that was a catch. On the 2 pass interference calls, and then we'll go on away from the reffing component of it, because like I said, I don't want to go too deep in that rabbit hole. But I'm going to go ahead and say this: Raylan Wilson, I think, did a great job of covering the back out of the backfield. Where they're always going to call him on, where there's hand battling going on, is he doesn't turn his head around and man to man. He's on the hip. If he doesn't turn the head, if he turns the head, I think maybe he gets the benefit of a doubt. But the other one, where Zion Branch has got his arm loop, he's got a little arm loop on the backside. A lot of times that doesn't get called, but that ball was not even catchable. And even if he hadn't touched him and let him free release through that mesh, he wouldn't have caught the football. DJ threw that way too high and way too far outside. But Zion doesn't know that. He has to play the ball the way it's set up. He's got to be on his hips, got to do his job. And, that's understandable going forward. If you look down through it, I think where the big turnaround is, if you look at Florida's 3rd and 4th down scenario, that almost kind of feels opposite of where we've, been at times, especially in the second half. I mean, being 2 for 11 on 3rd down and then 0 for 2 on 4th down, when realistically the efficiency and the accuracy, the percentage of them getting that 4th down those couple of times were high percentage for them. I mean, they needed less than a yard. We stuff them on that one play that's huge for us. It turns the momentum completely around at that point in time. I see a lot of good things from us in that regard. And, to see us win basically down the team stat line there, I think is really good to see. And again, continues to make me feel like, yeah, we're the cardiac dogs. And yeah, we play hard in the second half. And it's good to see from a team that's trying to grow and get better every game. But man, what would be nice is to see us put 4 quarters of play together and see more consistent gameplay like we play in the second half. But it's hard for me to sit here and look down on the fact of how we're playing in the second half and saying, you know what, this benefits us down the road, and it's continuing to benefit us because I do see a lot of mirror images between the Auburn game and the Florida game in the way that we played, and why it's important for us to win these games the way we're doing, even though it may cause the old heart rate to go up from us as Georgia fans. The next thing I was going to look at here is just some basic stats from the team leaders and get your insight on someone that might have impressed you that's maybe not even on the list here. We got Gunner at 20 of 29 for 2 touchdowns. Should have had really 3 touchdowns, total touchdowns. Him kneeling down, I know for the bettors and the gamblers out there to basically get the over-under or the spread is what a lot of them wanted. But you guys, that's high IQ football. You don't ever want to put the ball back in Florida's hands, no matter if you are up by 11. Just ask Texas today with Vanderbilt and what they did in the last 2 minutes. You don't want to give Florida the chance of doing anything with the football. If you've got the football, they can't do anything with it. I don't care if we win by 4 or we win by 11, but still, nonetheless, that was a smart play by him, very high IQ, and definitely good coaching there, because I'm sure that was talked about if it did happen. Chauncey Bowen's good to see him back out there. Believe it or not, his big run there at the end of the, in the fourth quarter there late in the game that kind of sealed the deal, ended up probably putting him over the total, his rushing total there. I think Nate Frazier probably had equal to, or just obviously a little bit less in his yardage, but I think he did a lot of good things tonight as well. How about Zachariah Branch? I think about Zachariah Branch and how they've tried to install him in the offense. They've done a lot of things to put him in the extension of the run game, which I think he's been very successful with. But tonight it was really about coming open into the zones. And how about Gunner laying the ball in there in different places in the second and third levels of the defense and being able to get Zachariah involved in the vertical game as well, not just underneath stuff and quick screens. And then, of course, C.J. Allen leading the team in tackles with 13. I questioned C.J. back realistically after the Alabama game. I was really beginning to wonder, where is he at? I didn't see the things that I wanted to see out of him. And it seemed like he turned it on right after the Auburn game in the third and fourth quarters of that game, the second half. All of a sudden, he has come to play. It's really good to see his play increase. And today, you saw him at Mike linebacker make a lot of key plays for us defensively, where if he doesn't make the play, they've got a pretty good explosive or something that's coming off of that. So, we've got these guys here on the left-hand side. We knew what DJ Lagaway and Jaden Ball were going to do for them, but I thought they did a really good job with who they had in their receiver core, because they had 2 primary receivers that were out tonight, which I was really surprised to see, because on the availability report, they didn't show to the last second. And I was preparing for, the green kid that was going to be, I think that's his name, Dallas. That's his name, not Green. Number 6, the one who had a good game against Texas. But anyway, his name is evading me right now. I think it's Dallas. But, he didn't play tonight. And, they still, to me, did a lot of good things throwing the football. And like I said, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said basically it's the timing of when things happened that kind of caused us a lot of those frustrations. So, but anyway, I just wanted to get your feedback on somebody that really impressed you tonight offensively.
Oh, Zachariah Branch.
Mm-hmm.
Taking hard hits and holding on to the football is not easy, and we kind of hand wave it away as fans. But to me, those are the most impressive catches. Is when look, my quarterback didn't hospital ball me. They put it as tight as they could. I just knew I was going to have to take the hit. The very little critique I could have of Zachariah Branch is, look, on those screens, especially with Florida playing as aggressive as they were downfield, you don't have time to dance. You got to go, and you got to go now. You're so fast. A lot of those screens that only being 2-3 yards could have been 7, 8, 9, 10. But to me, he's a good enough player, I think, that we'll start seeing that die back down, because you can't get in bad habits again after the bye because you're used to that. But just his ability to really be a game changer and kind of a lock in for Gunner to know, look, I can deliver this ball here, and I know he's going to do something with it. Yards after catch, really impressive on a critical down. I'll be honest with you, I was pretty frustrated with Gunner on 2 home run shots, but him being able to make the plays when it really, really matters over trumps all those issues, because there are certain things that Gunner's got to get better at recognizing, especially in zone with what Florida was throwing bodies back there and reading those windows. If he comes here, he goes away, this is where it'll be. But it's year 1. it's year one with new guys. You have a run game. Chauncey Bowen just continues to impress me. Um, Unreal just how patient he is, and I'm so glad we flipped him. But he to me is what, in essence, I call an RB1. I like Nate. I like the ability that Nate's seniored. I know that he's getting dirty yards. The fumbles still have to count because we're in that same season. But Chauncey Bowens is just an absolute playmaker because he has that perfect running back mentality of, I don't care if I'm only getting three, say I get 3 carries in a row and I only got 5 yards out of them. He is still going to approach it the same way every time because he knows eventually that door is going to open. And that's trust in the offensive line. But Zachariah Branch, outstanding game today, especially to make up for some of those whiffs that we saw. I think Dylan Bell had some critical catches, and boy, I'm so glad for him.
Yeah.
Last year, just as a fan, made me hate him, but I just knew in my heart of hearts, like, look, this guy works his butt off, and you always want those players to really succeed. Um, CJ Allen really has impressed me, and he has started turning it on and being that true run fit. And like you're saying, if he doesn't run fit as aggressive and as hard and as physical as he does, Baugh is an outstanding running back. And
Yes.
this is where, God forbid, if I ever became somewhat of a Florida fan, that's what's so frustrating about this team from an outsider's perspective is I see all this talent and nothing to show for it on the win-loss record. And you see games where they're really in it against top 10 teams. Now, again, I don't know if Miami will be. They likely won't be, but you hit it. And I have to, with one interception, that wasn't even on him. Like
Yeah.
short of throwing the ball, fast, which to be honest, there's 3 defenders around him. So I can only get it why Gunner's saying, look, I'm going to step into it. I'm going to throw the pitch. And so really, really outstanding from all those guys, especially when you're trying to replace, Colby Young, who is such a good staple. But really, Chauncey Bowen, Zachariah Branch, and Gunner Stockton kind of embody exactly what this offense is. It's like, look, it doesn't matter what the score is. It doesn't matter when it is. We're going to keep trying to do the right thing. And we're going to keep executing. But Zachariah Branch, to me, gets the game ball in terms of when and how he made those catches.
Very well said. And I think how you said that was perfect when he made those plays, because that is the key punch to us because we had so many of those inconsistencies tonight. I really wanted to play that out because Zachariah, when we needed those plays to happen on third down conversions, the big plays over the middle that we saw from him, those explosives that we saw were very key critical plays for us. And to see one become a staple on the offensive side of the ball, not just in the screen game, the extension of the run game, but the vertical passing game is something I think we can take to heart and feel good about. I wanted to hit on this one right here, Chase Lamford, because I wanted to hit this from a coach's perspective. Gunner did miss Rolden, should have been thrown to corner. The one to Bell pulls up on that route instead of running it out. And then, of course, we can obviously talk about the one to Delp that he tried to throw in there like a 105-mile-per-hour fastball. There's also another one that, even though it was a touchdown, the one to Noah Thomas, when I'll talk about those four real quick. The one to Noah Thomas is called a Fox play. You run the fast screen enough, you pump fake the fast screen, you saw those guys come down, and all you've got is a safety trying to get from the hash to the corner. Noah's got to help Gunner out by getting to the sideline to be able to work back to the football that's thrown inside to him, but that ball should have been thrown more on the line instead of putting too much air. He almost put too much air underneath it and allowed the safety to get to it. And if that's the case, Noah's got to go up and high point that ball and take it away from the defender and not give the defender time to get over there and pass break up that ball. On the other play, the long shot to Rolden, I agree with you on that, Mr. Langford. I think that he should have continued to work across the hash. He threw it more vertically down the left hash, and I really think that ball was meant to be more towards the right side, between the hash and the numbers to the right side, because that looked like where Landon was going. But then when he saw the ball was thrown, he had to redirect over the top of his head, and it's really hard to make that pat and go type catch over the top of your head like that. The play to Delp, I think he threw that ball the way he should have thrown it, but he has to, if he's going to throw it that way, he's got to, Oscar Delp's a tall kid. You got to throw that on his inside shoulder, and he didn't do that. He threw it basically down below his waist, and it was really hard to his outside. That's game tape. That's watching tape this week and saying, how can I improve that throw next time? That's not necessarily something that says Gunner's trash because he can't make those throws. Those are the things that he's going to get better at as time goes on. And then you look at the, what was the other one we were talking about? So I got the one on Noah, got the one on Delk, got the one on Rolden. What's the other one I'm missing? I was thinking about another one in general, and I cannot right now for the life of me think of it off the top of my head. But, those are the things he'll get better at on tape. Offensively, for me, what I'm going to continue to do, because skill players typically always get their name and number in the headlines, but nothing that's ever talked about is typically the offensive line. I'm a big offensive line pro guy for the offensive line, seeing them improve. To me, that is the staple of what a good offense to a great offense can be, is based off that front five. I think Coach Searles tried to do a good job tonight rotating. I don't know if you saw it or not, Scott, but they rotated in Dontrell Glover and Juan Gaston with Micah Morris in that rotation. I also saw Ernest Green in there with Juan Gaston at guard with Micah on the other side. And then I saw them pull Micah out, and they put Dontrell in at the guard beside Monroe Freeling with Gaston and Green on the other side. So that little rotation that they're doing right now, I really like to see, because all it can do is add depth. It's going to continue to help that offensive line improve. And for the most part, I think tonight a lot of the sacks and the pressures that Gunner was getting wasn't necessarily bust on the offensive line. There was a couple of them, but those are typically normal in a full ball game. I saw them being coverage sacks. Gunner was having to pull the ball down because everywhere he wanted to go with it, they were covered up, and he was trying to get out of there. And unfortunately, he chose the wrong gap to try to scoot from. So, that's what happens when, you maintain gap integrity and give a good solid pass rush. But for the most part, I really liked what I saw from the offensive line tonight. And I'm really enjoying to watch what I'll see on tape, hopefully, when I break it down this weekend. But, going back to what we were talking about a while ago, Scott, if there's some takeaways you look at this, and I know it seems that we tend to always get a team coming off of a bye week, even if we're not. And I don't think that changes very much over the next couple of weeks. We lead into Mississippi State, and then, of course, the big game with Texas at home. And, great for Vandy to give Texas a little bit of life, to breathe that little bit of breath of air into their lungs today, to give them a little bit of hope and get everybody back on their hype train. But what's your thoughts going forward and what you want to see as we move towards Mississippi State and towards Texas?
Keep winning the middle eight. Absolutely keep winning the middle eight. A lot of the teams that we beat, they slowly die out when they have real explosives, and we're able to control the middle of the game, which is really, really big. Obviously, it's just part of you now is don't flinch, because there are things that's not going to go your way. My biggest thing about this team is keep trusting in the fundamentals. You're there to make the plays, and you're physically making contact numerous times for TFLs or negative offensive plays or the right play at the right time. But you cannot continue not shooting the guns like you're saying and wrap up. A lot of this is shoulder bumping, chest bumping. And I get it. You want to drive through the man. You want to push him to the ground. You want to do all that. But 15 on defense, Jones. Absolutely. And again, I hope he's okay. I haven't heard a report yet. Absolutely made an outstanding play. He and CJ Allen are really DJ Lagway whiffing on a bunch of throws. But some of those were generated by Georgia. So going into what I need to see is continue to keep the physicality, use the good momentum from this, learn from the mistakes, but go into Mississippi State, and for once, I need 3 quarters of football. I'm asking for a full 60. I would love to see it, but I need to see 3 quarters of football, good football from Georgia. And I think Georgia would be a real issue for a lot of teams.
Very well said. And, I really feel like that you're not even though I know I mentioned Texas out there, I know we've still got Mississippi State to play, but that's the beauty of what I'm seeing with the parity in college football. I mean, there's not one game any week that to me we're running away from. I told them in the group chat tonight, we were talking that it was important for us to understand that if you're not expecting each game to be very similar to what we saw, I said it from the Tennessee game on, I've said, guys, we are going to be dealing with this kind of, the way things are kind of playing out when you've got a team that's trying to grow with young players and even tenured players working together to build the right chemistry in order to understand that we are coming out on the good side of things. Now, could we have come out a couple of these ball games on the losing side of things? Sure thing, we could have. And that's what I think making us feel like we're not on the ledge yet. We're backing from the ledge because we've got wins in places where there could have been easily a loss. I think of the Tennessee game, that one kick. I mean, we're dealing with 2 losses right now instead of just the one that we have from Alabama. And I don't even want to talk about that. But, when it comes down to it, I wanted to hit on that. I appreciate Alex Howe telling me it was the Dylan Bell play that I couldn't remember. And that really sets me up into sort of the pro and con of the things that I want to see from us as well. the Dylan Bell play, if you've got two guys in the same place, and I'm noticing this when I break down film all the time, is that a lot of times we have two receivers that one's on the hash and one's right outside the numbers. And you've got one guy that can split that and bracket and play both of them if they wanted to, not to mention they're actually being played by two people in man. But if they're going to do that, if they're going to run the skinny post, or what I call Paris is my concept out of this, where you get two skinnies and you convert based off where the safety corner concept is in zone, that if you're reading the safety and the safety bites on the first post, the backside post is open, you're just reading what that safety's doing. If the safety sits over the top, the inside post is open. But the ball to Dylan Bell where he kind of gives up on it was really kind of puzzling me as well, because it seemed like that's the play he really wanted, the long shot there for the explosive. And you got Delp that's on the skinny, not really getting across to the hash very well. And when that ball lands over Dylan's head, I mean, he's within 8 yards of Delp. So there's got to be some continuity with that passing. When you're looking at that tree, if you're really going to do this, I would almost inside influence that and do, I don't want to get too deep into the well of the X's and O's of it, but you've got to separate those guys away from one another so that you don't have two people basically guarding one or one person guarding two in that situation as well. So that was really tough to watch when you see that kind of stuff. And, and again, that comes down to watching film and saying, hey, this is what we want to do here. Knucklehead, you were too far inside on this. You needed to be across the field a little bit better in that regard. But here's what I feel like I'm seeing going into the next game. Bobo, to me, has found some chemistry with Gunnar Stockton's strengths. And we can't sit here and just magically say, hey, we just want you to all of a sudden start layering the ball, Gunnar. We're going to see that based off good play action because we're running the football and RPO game. We went down the field on the first drive with play action, RPO, getting him out of the pocket, which I thought are his biggest strengths. When you get a quarterback who has the ability to run, to throw the ball through layers in the flood, but then also if he's not pulled up, have the ability to run as well, that is something that is hard to defend if you're not prepared for those kinds of things. But I saw twice, in that first series, the one that Dylan Bell catches is an RPO type play, and there's another one that he gets to Dylan Bell off of an RPO type play. That is Gunnar's, to me, his strengths. And that all comes from the fact of being able to run the football effectively. So to kind of piggyback on what you said, I would really love to see the continued efforts of us to make sure that we're running the football effectively with Chauncey and both Nate. And, and continue to implement all those other things that we do, which are extensions of the run game, the quick game, reverse game that we have, the end around type plays, the fakes off of that, and the boot actions that we do, the fast screen, the jailbreak screen to people like Zachariah, things of that nature. But I think that's all set up by doing things effectively and executing so that you can set up for the explosives off play action, so that you can set up for the quick throws, which to me gets the ball out in 1.5 seconds or sooner, to a post or a quick out or just a quick vert where you're seeing what I call just a quick delay off of it, where you're throwing it between the whole player and the safety, where you've got that little area there, the little honey hole I like to call it. That's what I want to continue to see from the offense. I think that Coach Bobo, as you said earlier in the show, has really stepped up with making our offense click to the best of our abilities based off the personnel that we have. And I think that chemistry is very important. Defensively, it comes down to it. If we're going to continue to just be a gap integrity defensive line and not create any havoc, and we've got to bring 5 and 6 man pressure to create that havoc, that by God, when we get there, we get home. If that's the way you're going to have to do it, we've got to get home with 5 and 6 man pressure and be able to play the way we're playing in our cover 1 mans, our cover 2 mans, and be able to get home with these Chris Coles, who we haven't heard a lot about this year. When we're having to bring your inside backers to create that havoc, sometimes that you win and lose by that. And sometimes we've been branded because of, bringing inside backer pressure, and the quarterback's got a wide lane to throw to on a dig coming across, and we're chasing 2 steps behind and they complete it. So if we're going to continue to live and die with 5 and 6 man pressure, we've got to start getting home. Today we saw that. It wasn't as consistent as we would like to see, but those havocs did cause some errant throws from Lagaway. And I do think as time goes on, if that's the way we're going to have to bring it, then so be it, because we continue to find no defensive linemen. And, you see Jordan Hall going out today. I was hoping maybe Josh Horton was going to get some more playing time today, see what he could do. Xavier McLeod, see what they can do. And sometimes you're forced to go into work. You're forced to go into doing some things when you're wanting to say, well, why not this kid? Why not this kid? Why is he not getting an opportunity? Well, Zion Branch got an opportunity today, and he got exploited on a pass interference call. I think he did some good things. I'm ready to see what he has on film because he's put some plays on film. But I'm with you. We've got to figure out the right cocktail for our 5-man secondary. And, I have been saying this. I wish I had my graphic for it, but I've been saying this for a while. And now, of course, DeMello being hurt and Kyron being hurt, I was wanting to see maybe a Janelle Aguero go to the strong safety position opposite of KJ and put DeMello because of his physicality, at the nickel position, because he also can cover like a corner, but he has the physical ability to come up and make tackles like an outside backer would. And then leave, Ellis Robinson and Dalen Everett at corners. But now with Kyron being hurt, now obviously DeMello's hurt. I'm not sure what. I hope and pray he's not, in bad shape either. They're going to have to find some people stepping up. Is it Adrian Maddox? Is it Zion Branch? Now those opportunities are going to present themselves, especially like if Jordan Hall, Kristen Miller wasn't happy with Jordan Hall's injury. I don't know if you saw it on the game or not, but he took a knee beside him as the trainers were talking to him. He got up. You could tell he was physically disgusted with whatever he heard in that small 10, 15-second window. So I'm hoping and praying it's not severe with Jordan, because he is definitely someone, like you said earlier, that has been plagued by injury, and he's finally having a good, consistent season for the most part. But again, if he's out, we've got to see somebody else step up in his place. And, that would be the difference maker to me defensively. If we started seeing at least one or two that could start creating a little bit of havoc, they could get off the one man pass pro and be able to make quarterbacks have to throw the ball quicker than they want to, get out of their rhythm, get out of their window, and see good things. So, I appreciate your time with me, Scott. Are any closing thoughts? We've been going on here almost an hour tonight. It's kind of hard to believe. I feel like we've just been talking for 5 or 10 minutes, but I really appreciate you being with me tonight. Any, last thoughts as we prepare to, take on the rest of this weekend?
Yeah, I think you brought up a really good point with the young guys. I think something that's impressed me is the young guys are starting to creep into the rotation, and I think that's really important. And I really, really hope that they start, breathing life into certain aspects of the game. Again, I'm like you with Jones. I really hope he's okay. I think he's outstanding. I think that's a great personnel concept of, look, I already know I have, Jonell here is playing his butt off. Move him into that weak. I'm calling it weak safety position alongside KJ, and then throwing Jones there, because that play to me from the outside. A corner creeps up and he's now in like the Ghost 9 technique, and he screams and heel lines and hits a running back and keeps it, on a really good play call against, a front that wasn't, quite aligned right, or someone missed their run fit. I think those are bigger plays than we as fans do. But last thoughts, look, it's always good to win. Understand teams like Florida that have a lot of talent, Auburn that have a lot of talent, but their win-loss record, do not fall into the trap moving forward in all of college football that this is going to be easy. A lot of these teams are 1 or 2 calls, 1 or 2 personnel decisions, 1 or 2 plays away from being a totally radically new, image of what you think they are. And Florida's one of those. Like, DJ's super talented. I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but you saw the reason DJ's been having kind of the year he has. But he makes amazing plays. He makes the hard play look easy and the easy play look hard. And so part of that moving forward, just as fans, is I'm going to continue to ride the roller coaster, because I'm just going to take my coach hat off and my fan hat on, but appreciate the end result every single time, because it is not easy to be in the situation you're in where you have a 3-point loss at home against a team for whatever reason you can't beat. And I can point out 5 plays just in my, notebook here of this goes one little bit different. We're talking about a totally different season and what Georgia's going to do, because the mass media is going to go out, especially the Joel Klatts of the world and Paul Feinbaum's. Do not get trapped in the idea of, hey, these hand wave away these things. It's going to be tight margins. Kirby said it best. He was calm, cool as a cucumber the entire game, because he said, look, this is just what it's going to be. But I do think there's a lot of answers we can have that are better answers, maybe not perfect. But I'm like you,
personified excellence for
a guy in a playing Army uniform on the profile pic. But I really appreciate you having me. It's always good talking to you, especially because, like you said, you're that really good representation of, look, you're hitting it from a coach's perspective. You can't be too high, you can't be too low. And I think Kirby kind of matched your energy today because it never seemed like Kirby was just losing his mind in any of that 60 minutes. So,
Um, are you still there? I want to make sure that I didn't lose you on the feed because they just stopped the stream on YouTube, which again, it just stopped. I think it's because I've got some of the live feed playing there on it a little bit, but still, that's YouTube for you. I'm not looking for monetization out of this. I just wanted to be able to offer some insight out to the fans who like to watch the game, who love the game, who love our Bulldogs. And, if YouTube doesn't want it, they can be like ABC and ESPN and Disney and all those other guys and just take it, and they can find take a long walk off a short pier, if you know what I'm talking about.
there you go.
Scott, I appreciate you being with me tonight. It's always a pleasure to talk ball with you, and I look forward for us to be able to do this again real soon. For all of those who have joined us tonight, we appreciate you being in with me. I appreciate you joining the huddle. I just wanted to real quickly, if I get a chance, to talk to you about my Patreon account that I have started up. I've gotten the opportunity with all my breakdowns to start putting my exclusive breakdowns into the Patreon account, and it's a free sign up. You can come in and see all the previews of things that I do, from analyzation of player profiles to recruiting profiles, and also what a lot of people want to come to the table and see the X's and O's and the breakdowns that I do. If you have the opportunity, check out the Patreon, and you'll see there that the QR code is on the screen. Give it a scan, and it'll take you right to the show. But you can go to Patreon/Coach Hayes Huddle, HUDL, and I would love for you to join and be a part of my crew. And like I said, getting exclusive updates every week. For me and Scott, we appreciate you being with us tonight. Take care. God bless. And as always, go Dogs.
Go Dogs.